So up everybody, it's beau-hindman back with another 10-minute toy video. This time I'm talking about a model kit that I finished. Hope that's the right sound. It's a Sherman. I did a video a while ago. I saved the box top here, so let's just cover what I'm building or what I have built here. It's the M4A38 Sherman Easy 8. Excuse me. If you've watched, I should say, the movie Fury. I believe this is the type of tank or the tank that it is based on. It's got the larger gun, which, if you notice in the Fury movie, they have, which is why I think some people called BS on the scene wherever Fury's fighting the German tank. What is that? The Tiger? I can't remember, because this gun could penetrate that armor, supposedly. Here's the standard way that you see the captain in the movie, which is a really exciting way that he pilots that thing. He captains that tank. But it's a European theater one because we're over there in France and stuff like that. It's a fantastic movie, even if you're not into tanks and stuff like that, or warfare. It's really, really, really it's just a good movie. I'm not a big wartime person but I do think, and it does take some artistic liberties, but I do like the action in it, and it's not too long. It's kind of emotional, but it's not overly sappy or anything. And of course Brad Pitt's in it. He helped produce it. He's always a good actor, so it's definitely worth checking out if you just want to check out a movie about the Sherman. And I got this little book from Amazon. It's a little thin book. I'll put all of these links into the what was I going to say, the comments below, or the description below, because this is a good modeler's resource. This is the tank here, this diagram here on the front that I was actually kind of going for. Let's see, pretty close. Let's see here. I just did some basic stuff to it. This is the Tamiya, by the way, 1/35th scale. I've seen 1/16th scale Shermans, but they're usually remote control. But they're so big, they're absolutely cool looking. This is the first tank model I've built. Excuse me. I might have built one when I was a kid. I don't remember, but I know that when we were kids, we'd come down here to Austin, Texas, and we'd visit my grandmother, and she would take us to the Piggly Wiggly or whatever it was called and buy us little models, snap tights, or little ship models. And I don't remember if we had a tank or not, but my grandfather he was in World War II, he built some bombers or something like that. Anyway, so this is the Sherman. Let's go over some of the details. All I did to it was did some basic weathering. The little guy here I'll show in a second here, because he's not quite done. I did him basically how he should be done, but he's not quite done. For a model itself, I'm a Gunpla modeler. I also do custom toys. For just a model, it's a great model that has, I gotta say, probably the real advantage of this thing is it's the details. The details are really, really, they've tooled some amazing. And there's some spots in here I'm not quite finished with. I just noticed, like this hatchback here. There's some really, really amazing little details, or just details in this model. It was about $35, which sounds a little expensive, but when you see the amount of detail you get and the hours of putting it together and having fun with it and stuff like that, it's definitely equivalent to a $35 Gundam for sure. So, but this doesn't snap together. There are a few parts that kind of, I believe these wheels here actually just sit on the rubber gaskets. I forget the term of it. It's what you use in a Gunpla. So it just kind of, they can slide on and off, and they're just kept on here by tension. But other than that, everything's got to be pretty much glued in place. So the details are super tiny, as you can tell. There's some really, really fine details in here. But if you can see some of the details, like these little, I'm going to see if I can get a better look here. Sorry. Ooh, sorry. These little covers, they're basically they're caging or whatever to cover for the periscopes, or what are these called here? The periscopes that they see out of. So the guys are sitting, there's a pilot sitting right, or co-pilot sitting right here, and he uses that one to see. It pops up, and the driver sits here, and his pops up there, and then here has one for the captain, and I think that's for the gunner. Is that for the gunner? So those little tiny details, like this little guy back here, are so tiny and frail. They're very, very, you make sure you have some good tweezers and stuff. There is a part here that was so tiny. See if I can get a shot. I can't even really see if I'm getting that good, but it's such a tiny piece. There it is, and you kind of see it better in the shadow there. It is literally like the grain of sand. They tooled that and printed it, or cast it in plastic, and you're supposed to take it off and glue it at a certain way. And it's absolutely ridiculous. I believe I got it in the right way. I had to use a magnifying glass on that, and I'm 44. My eyes were getting a little bit rougher. I've always had kind of rough vision, been a glasses wearer, but that was like, I was just like, screw it. I just kind of glued it in there. So there's some parts where the glue pokes out. Not too bad. There's some, there's just little fiddly stuff. All these little parts look really cool. I just weathered them and stuck them on there. But some of them, like the gun, the machine gun on the top, when I glued it, it's so kind of fiddly that the glue got a few places and messed up a few things. So on the tiny parts, it's a little bit of a hassle. And that's probably the biggest drawback for this model kit, is that it has tons and tons of great little details, but those little details mean that you've got to it's kind of fiddly. It's very fiddly. In fact, I've done a lot of Gunpla kits, and none of them are nearly this fiddly, but they're not recreating real life where the detail has to look a certain way. Like each one of these, excuse my language, excuse my burp. Each one of these is, it's supposed to go in a certain way, like at that angle, it has flat on one side. But when I trimmed them off, I needed to trim them off of the sprue, and then I needed to trim down the excess plastic, right? It was almost impossible to do, because for me to hold that and to trim it, I couldn't quite produce enough torque because it was so tiny, it kept pushing it, and so I just glued them in place. They look fine, don't get me wrong, they look okay. These little things here, I got that wrong and painted that one silver. These are silver with some headlights there, look pretty good, but again, really, really just fiddly stuff. I would give anything, and I probably will look into buying, if they have one, a 1/16 model of this. Like I said, I think they're generally remote control. There's a guy online who's been doing custom ones. He customizes them for people, and they're, you know, huge. They're as big as this screen is here right now. So I would give anything for one of those. They're probably about $200 or $300, but not only would the details be more fine and you could really get in there, excuse me, but it would be easier to snap together. I tend to like larger models now because I don't want to fiddle around with stuff. I'm not into miniatures. I'm into making kind of a toy. But anyway, other than that, the detail work is fantastic. That grading there looks amazing. That I just left loose, so that can actually pop off. I could add an interior detail if I want. This part here, the little gas cans sit on it. You can also buy, which I plan on doing, buying some bags and stuff and kind of kitting this one out with like extra stuff. These are little gas cans, cute little gas can. You know, and really making it look like either the Fury or just kind of, I didn't add the stars. A lot of them, from what I understand, removed some of those stars because those stars on the side of a tank act perfectly as a targeting a dot to shoot. So the enemy would see that big bright white star and just shoot right at it, because you would often put it right there where it's important, you know, although there was a lot more armor here, I believe. So I might put one here because they would put those so that friendly aircraft wouldn't bomb them instead, you know, on accident, which it did happen. So not bad. The assembly process is not bad. As you can see, I think it looks fantastic. All I did was weather it. I did a few little details like to show that, you know, stuff splashed up or a bullet hit or whatever. And that's all I did. The tracks do move, but these wheels, when you assemble them, all of these wheels here, and you have to put them on, you know, when you basically have the wheel and a stick and then another wheel, and so you take it and you go boop and you put it together. When you glue the stick into the other wheel, you have to put such little glue, but even then it would tighten it so much that these don't even really turn. So it still turns using just a tension, the idler, whatever you call that wheel, and the back wheel. But not that great, because the tracks, even though you assemble them like they say, oh shoot, see that, look at that. I just barely touched that. So that's got to be re-glued. See, like little crap like that. If I can't pick up a model at all, but I mean, it's a fine model, don't get me wrong. Little stuff like that, like the tracks, you glued them together, they're a little bit loose-ish or whatever. But other than that, fantastic. I got the guy, started painting him. I'm not quite done with him. I'll have to finish him up, you know, make him look a little better, put some goggles on there. But overall, and for the Sherman EZ8 by Tamiya, I'm loving it. Tell me what you think. It's about 35 bucks. I'll put a link in the description there. Pretty good. I'd like to do another one. Have a good one all. Bye-bye.